Good morning. My name is Michelle and I'm Head of Membership at NatRoad. NatRoad understand the need of the road freight industry and we are working to improve the operating environment and viability of road transport businesses. Today we are joined by Sam Marks, NatRoad's Head of Policy, who will give us an update on the key issues NatRoad are working on. Over to you, Sam.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for tuning in. Today I'm going to step you through Road to 2028, which is NatRoad's policy agenda, I guess reform plan for governments that we released earlier this year ahead of the federal election. For those in industry, this is no big surprise, but I think it's important to start any discussion here in terms of the industry and policy that this is an essential industry, and quite literally, without trucks, Australia does stop. Whether this is the ability to get goods to market, whether it's keeping shelves supplied, or essential medications and the like, it very much is an essential industry. It's also important to recognise that growth in the industry and in the amount of road freight on the road is inevitably linked to increases in population and economic growth, and that we are talking about almost an 80% projected growth in the size of the task out to 2050. This means that when we're talking about some of the challenges that need addressing, we are not just seeking to address today's challenge, such as, say, the driver shortage and the current shortage, but we also have to be mindful of the facts of the very sizable growth that is coming down the road at us. Finally, the industry is very much a small business industry and running on very tight margins. So it needs to be well understood in governments in particular that the industry isn't just able to simply pass on cost increases. And that needs to be taken into account when you're designing policy. In terms of Road to 2028, we set out 5 key areas of focus. So this includes safety, workforce, costs, productivity, and emissions. And now we'll step through each of those in turn. On the safety front, unfortunately, the data isn't great, no matter which way you slice it. The AAA benchmark the targets under the National Road Safety Strategy, and you can see that on the screen there. They're all red, nothing is on track. The current strategy on road safety is unlikely to meet its targets. And this, at a practical level, is sort of coming through in an increase in the road toll, and that we now lose over 1,300 lives each year. Some of the heavy vehicle specific data as well is also not great, and this means that we all need to do more from governments down to improve the road safety outcomes. From NatRoad's perspective, there is no single solution here that is going to fix road safety, but there are a number of things that could be done over the next 3-year period that would make a very clear impact. So when it comes to how governments spend their road funding, ensuring that funding is prioritised towards where it is needed most. When it comes to the safety star ratings of our roads and our national highways in particular, we know that every increase in safety star rating approximately halves the risk of death or serious injury. The last public assessment of this sort of approach was a little while ago now, back in 2013, and it found that only 61% of the national highway network was 3-star or better. And that's for just $4.7 billion. That could be lifted to about 85%. So you would imagine, we would hope that lower baseline figure is a bit higher a decade later with funding that has happened in the interval. But the sort of point remains that infrastructure funding should be guided by the safety outcomes that it's going to fund. A recent example of this was the Bruce Highway funding announced earlier this year by the federal government. That was tied to improving it to a 3-star road, and that is the sort of approach that we need to see more of. Additionally, another no-brainer really that should be done is no-fault safety investigations. This would not replace police or coronial processes, but when there is a clear safety lesson that needs to be learnt from a crash, so not from every crash, there needs to be an independent process that is focused on learning those safety outcomes as opposed to being focused on assigning blame. When we look at workforce, NatRoad partnered with the IRU late last year to bring the global driver shortage survey to Australia for the first time. And unsurprisingly, it found that some 49% of trucking businesses face severe or very severe difficulties in terms of finding drivers. For the larger businesses, that's up to 70% of those businesses. In terms of the numbers, it leads to a driver shortage of about 28,000 unfilled positions today. And when you look at the average age in the industry and try to project likely retirements over the next 4 or 5 years, that figure is likely to more than double to almost 80,000. So it is a very severe and pressing challenge. In terms of the pathway forward, NatRoad is very clear that we think this needs leadership. It needs national leadership and from national cabinet. A lot of the policy, I guess, mechanisms that could address this, from extending the apprenticeship to incentives to licensing and training reform, sits at multiple levels of government and with multiple agencies and departments. So you need a national overarching leadership and coordination to keep reform moving in the right direction. On the costs front, this is a regular piece of feedback from members that this is a significant challenge. Almost 80% of NatRoad members nominate rising fuel prices and road usage charges as the most significant challenge they're facing over the next 12 months. And we're in the middle of a pricing determination period that is sort of 3 consecutive years of 6% increases to the road user charge, which in these later years is above and beyond the rate of inflation. These sort of government charges then work in with other increases, with the price of diesel, maintenance, wages, etc. At the same time as independent research suggests that average profit margins are declining, and it creates a significant a challenge for the industry. In terms of what this means at a policy level, there are various things that can be done. In terms of practical on the ground sort of assistance today, it's important to remember, if you're a NatRoad member, that you can access the Ampol fuel discounts and other partnership and member benefits arrangements that we have. And at the policy level for governments, there are things that can be done around fines, road user charges in particular. There's a lot of sort of the back end technical side of that can be fixed up to reduce the pressure for that sort of rate of increase that we currently have. And a highlight that's worth mentioning is that we have achieved, in partnership with others, the end of bridge assessment fees in the state of Victoria from the 1st of January next year. This means that an approximate sort of $500,000 cost that is being paid by industry each and every year to use more productive, safer, and less emissions intensive vehicles, that cost will be gone. That's a significant step forward. When we turn to productivity, there has been a massive increase in the number of permits over the last decade. This is not the results of the same sort of scale of increase in number of permits. It may be that operators are increasingly using more productive vehicles, but it shows that red tape burden on those vehicles is an increasing challenge. On the pathway forward, we have set a very clear target based on past government work and agreements that there should be a elimination of about 90% of permits by 2028. This it would largely be achieved by the rollout of the National Automated Access System. This is a system that is slowly being stood up, but the argument here is really that governments need to ensure that they are financing the development of this system so that it achieves change in a timely period. There are also proposed reforms in regards to general access under the Heavy Vehicle National Law, and they should all be progressed. When we turn to emissions, transport is commonly approximately around sort of 20% of Australia's emissions. Not all of that is road freight, I might add. And when we look to road freight emissions, I think it's important to look at what has changed over recent decades. And so you can see there that when it comes to noxious emissions, so these are not carbon emissions, this is about human health and urban sort of air quality. Those emissions have actually gone down at the same time as the size of the fleet and the amount of freight being moved have gone up. This shows that the industry has actually had some good wins on this front, and that growth in the industry does not have to lead to growth in emissions. You can see down the bottom there that the carbon emissions have still been going up, but they have been going up less than the amount of freight, the rate of increase in the freight, which means that the carbon intensity, to use a technical term, of freight has actually been going down. In terms of policy for governments, NatRoad is very sort of clear here that it needs to be nuanced and it needs to be designed in such a way that enables the industry to continue to do what it does best. So this means the pathway forward needs to be technology neutral, and ultimately it's the operator who is best placed to choose what is the best truck for any particular transport task. The clear sort of policy steps that could be taken here is an improvement around the incentives that are available for zero emission vehicles and infrastructure. This is so that the operators have more of a genuine choice about what they can do on that front, and a low carbon fuel standard, which would enable a sort of market-based approach to slowly increasing the blending of renewable diesel in the broader fuel mix over time. This would allow sort of a phased transition and enable a pathway for continued use of the internal combustion engine, because there are parts of the freight task that will need to continue to use those traditional trucks for a long time to come. You may question, why are we talking about emissions? And this is very much about ensuring that industry and operators are well positioned for the future and for winning customer contracts. Australia has an emerging sort of carbon emissions compliance framework, which ultimately sets reporting obligations, mostly on transport customers. For the largest transport operators, they will come into the system directly as well. So this means that as this new system rolls out, and you can see how the thresholds there change over time, that increasingly your customers, depending on who they are, may have an increased focus on emissions, because the reporting obligations on these companies includes their supply chains. So in order for small trucking businesses and operators to be able to continue to win those contracts into the future, we need the right policy framework that enables those emissions to come down in a cost-effective way. In terms of what this means for you, a good starting place is actually Get Fleet Fit, which is a set of resources that NatRoad brought out. You can access this on our website in the industry hub, and this helps you to think through what what it is that works best for your business. And this is not necessarily about deploying an electric truck. This a large part of Get Fleet Fit focuses on options around the productivity of your vehicle, how you use those, and the whole range of options. Because the point here is that the industry is complex, and that the best the best place person to make the decision about what solution works best for your business is you. So this is very much about helping to provide that guidance and that framework, so that when your customers increasingly come asking questions on this topic, that you aren't caught on the hop, essentially. And that's a brief, I guess, overview of Get Fleet Fits and road to 2028. Member feedback is very important to how we determine these policy priorities. So don't hesitate to reach out if you want to discuss those further. And thank you for your time.
Thanks, Sam, and thank you for watching. And if you're not yet a NatRoad member, please contact us on 1-800-272-144 to discuss how we can support your transport business, or you can join online at natroad.com.au.